Қайырлы күн, құрметті әріптестер. Қалайсыздар? Менің даусым естіліп тұр ме? Қатты ма, жай ма? Жаза қоярсыңдар, иә? Құрметті әріптестер, жаза қойыңдар. Менің даусым естіліп тұр ме? Қалайсыздар? Сіздерді онлайнда отырғаныңызға мен өте қатты қуаныштымын. Аха, жақсы, рахмет, Айнагүл. Жақсы естіліп тұр дейді. Аха, Алтын Дәулетярова, рахмет, жақсы естіліп тұр дейді. Аха, қалайсыздар? Барлығы жақсы ма сіздерде? Назгүл Қисметованың жаңағы пожелайынсын оқып жүрейін. Hello, dear colleagues. Hi, everyone. I wish you good luck and a wonderful discuss. Have a nice day. Райхан Асылбековна writes, Hello, colleagues. Wish you good luck today. Шынар Касталовкіден жазып жатыр, менде свет жоқ, не істейін деп. Қайта сөніп жатыр деп. Аха, Алия Суйналиева. Now, sunny day, my dear friends, how did you provide your weekend? Are you fine? Are you ready to listen me? You're ready. You left only 2 minutes. Nazgul Kismetova writes, Yes, we are ready. We left 1 minute. Now, sunny day, my dear colleagues. I am so happy that you are here in online. Now, let me start today's session. The theme of today's session is the theory of multiple intelligence by Gardner. The theory of multiple intelligence by Gardner. Now, the aim of the lesson: develop understanding about multiple intelligence and implement its principles in teaching process. Now, multiple intelligence. Gardner claims that all human beings have multiple intelligences. These multiple intelligences can be nurtured and strengthened or ignored and weakened. His research from 1991 identified 7 intelligences. In the intervening time, he has come to believe there are a total of 9 intelligences. There are 9 multiple intelligences. Verbal linguistic intelligence. Well-developed verbal skills and the sensitivity to the sounds, meanings and rhythms of words. Mathematical logical intelligence. The ability to think conceptually and abstractly, and the capacity to discern logical and numeral patterns. Musical intelligence. The ability to produce and appreciate rhythm, pitch, and timbre. Visual spatial intelligence. The capacity to think in images and pictures, to visualize accurately and abstractly. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence. The ability to control one's body movements and to handle objects skillfully. Interpersonal intelligence. The capacity to detect and respond appropriately to the moods, motivations, and desires of others. Intrapersonal intelligence. The capacity to be self-aware and in tune with inner feelings, values, beliefs, and thinking processes. Naturalist intelligence. The ability to recognize and categorize plants, animals, and other objects in nature. Existential intelligence. The sensitivity and the capacity to take deep questions about human existence, such as the meaning of the life, why we die, and how we got here. There are specific models of multimedia and instructions techniques which include the following. Visuals. Visual media help students acquire concrete concepts such as object identification, spatial relationship, and motor skills. Printed words. While the printed word is the most common method of dispensing information, some argue that audio is superior. Sound. Sound media offer a stimulus for sound recognition or recall. Audio narration is a useful tool for students who struggle with reading. Motion. Motion depicts human performance so that learners can copy the movement. This kinesthetic method can be essential for understanding some subject matter. Color. Choices on color display are required if it is essential to what is being learned, such as the sky is blue. Really teaches cognitive and motor skills with objects. Really can be used with individuals or groups depending on the situation. Really may be used to present information realistically or with way learners internalize information. Instructional setting. Design must include what materials are being used, as well as environment in which it is to be taught. Printed materials should be individualized to allow the learner to set the pace. Learner characteristics. Teaching models must consider learner characteristics as media may be interpreted in various ways by different learners. Research has not provided definitive methods in matching the media most suitable for types of learners. Now there are specific models of multimedia and instruction techniques which include the following. Reading ability. Pictures aid learners for poor readers who understand spoken words rather than printed words. Good readers can control the pace, and the print allows for easier review. Categories of learning outcomes. Categories ranged from the 3 to 11 and the most include some oral guidance learning categories. Intellectual skills, motor skills, verbal information, overall attitudes, and use of cognitive strategies. Events of instruction. Teachers have to choose the external events which support internal learning with events of instruction. This occurs in the planning stages and before selection of the appropriate media. Performance. It is important for students to perform tasks that demonstrate learning and retention. The elicited performances can be categorized by type: covert, overt, motor, verbal, constructed, and select. Media should be selected to correspond with the desired outcome. Now, theory of multiple intelligences suggested several other ways in which the material might be presented to facilitate effective learning. One of the most significant results of the theory of multiple intelligences is how it has provided 8 different potential pathways to learning. If a teacher is having difficulty reaching a student in the more traditional linguistic and logical ways of instruction, the theory of multiple intelligences suggested several other ways in which the material might be presented to facilitate effective learning. Now, WITS, linguistic intelligence. Numbers or logic, logical mathematical intelligence. Pictures, spatial intelligence. Music, musical intelligence. Self-reflection, intrapersonal intelligence. Physical experience, bodily kinesthetic intelligence. A social experience, interpersonal intelligence. An experience in the natural world, naturalist intelligence. Naturalist intelligence. Multiple intelligence activities. The theory of multiple intelligences is so intriguing because it expands our horizon of available teaching and learning tools beyond the conventional linguistic and logical methods used in most schools. For example, lecture, textbooks, writing assignments, formulas, and etc. Multiple intelligences, new horizons. Having an understanding of different teaching approaches from which we all can learn, as well as a toolbox with a variety of the ways to present content to students and available for increasing the accessibility of learning experiences for all students. We want to continue to develop this toolbox, so it is especially important to gather ongoing information about student strengths and challenges, as well as their developing interests and dislikes. Providing different learning contexts for students and engaging a variety of their senses is supported by current research. Educational video games may be an effective means of posing learning challenges that are perceived as interesting and enjoyable, resulting in engagement and immersion in the game-based learning task. As our insatiable curiosity about the learning process persists and studies continue to evolve, additional scientific research may emerge that further elaborates on multiple intelligences and learning styles. Now let's review. Now you know, through this slide, through this session, there are 9 multiple intelligences. Let's review. The first, verbal linguistic intelligence. The next, mathematical logical intelligence. The next, musical intelligence. Visual spatial intelligence. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Interpersonal intelligence. Intrapersonal intelligence. naturalist intelligence, existential intelligence. Now through this slide you have known that there are specific modes of multimedia and instruction techniques, which include the following: visuals, printed words, sound, motion, color, relay, instructional setting, then characteristics. A reading ability categorized of learning outcomes. Learning outcomes. Now, there are facilitate effective learning. What are they? Words, a linguistic intelligence, numbers of logical mathematical intelligence, pictures, music, self-reflection, physical experience, a social experience, and the experience in the natural world. Now, continue our session with the game communication. Now, what have you seen? You have seen communication game. Nowadays to develop communication skills is so useful and modern nowadays. To develop communication skills through the games, through the variety of the activities. Now let's continue. Sorry. Now the next theme of our today's session is a receptive and a productive language skills. Principles of language integration. Receptive and productive language. Principles of language integration. They are all the skills: speaking, writing, reading, and listening. Like in language teaching, language skills are categorized into two categories: receptive and productive skills. Reading and the listening are part of the receptive skills. The productive skills, however, comprise speaking and writing. Receptive and productive. In language teachers, the receptive skills are those skills where skills of the learning. Receptive skills. In language teaching, the receptive skills are those skills where meaning is extracted from the spoken and the written discourse. These skills are listening and reading respectively. I'll read once more. In language teaching, the receptive skills as those skills where meaning is extracted from the spoken or written discourse. These skills are listening and reading respectively. Now productive skills. The productive skills, on the other hand, refer to the skills where the students are invited to produce language in written or spoken forms, that is in the speaking and writing. Now, these are skills of learning. Receptive skills, input, and the productive skills, output. Now, receptive skills are those skills where meaning is extracted from the spoken and the written discourse. They are reading and listening. And the next, productive skills, output, refer to the skills where the students are invited to produce language in a written or spoken forms, that is in the speaking and writing. Now, skill: an acquired ability to perform an activity well, as usually one that is made of a number of the coordinated processes. Now, teaching respective skills. Teaching respective skills. There are three important things should be taken into account when teaching receptive skills. The first, develop the necessary skills to understand and interpret spoken or written materials. It is the aim of the teaching receptive skills is to help the language learners. The first, develop the necessary skills to understand and interpret spoken and written materials. Is the aim of the teaching receptive skills is to help the learners. Consequently, the teacher has to avoid focusing only on testing the learner's performance in getting the meaning of the texts and aim, instead at training them to use the reading and the listening strategies that enable them to deal with any type of the text. Now the next teaching receptive skills is read or listen for a person. Read and listen for a purpose. Read and listen for a purpose. For a purpose. This can be to get specific information or to get a general idea of the text. Sometimes listening and reading are done just for pleasure, as when we read poetry or listen to a podcast. Now, the third teaching receptive skills is these receptive skills are not passive. Listeners and readers make use of the important cognitive processing while listening or reading. Two of the most important activities that occur in the mind while processing a text are top-down and bottom-up. Now, the first, top-down processing. Top-down processing. Using pictures to predict what the topic will be about. Using pictures to predict what the topic will be about. Providing 3 or 4 titles and asking the students to listen to or read the passage to decide about the most appropriate title for the passage. Providing 3 or 4 titles and asking the students to listen to or read the passage to decide about the most appropriate title for the passage. Providing headings and asking the student to match them with the different sections of the passage. Providing headings and asking the students to match them with the different sections of the passage. The next, providing different pictures to be matched with the different sections. Providing different pictures to be matched with the different sections. Putting a series of pictures or sequence of the events in the right order. Putting a series of pictures or a sequence of events in the right order. Listening to conversations and identifying where they take place and the people involved. Listening to conversations and identifying where they take place and the people involved. Asking the students to infer the type of the relationships between the people involved. Asking the students to infer the type of the relationships between the people involved. Providing students with a set of the information to be studied. They then have to listen to or read the main passage and decide whether or not the same points are mentioned. Providing students with a set of the information to be studied, then they have to listen or read the main passage and decide whether or not the same points are mentioned. Now, top-down activities refer to the activities where the learners are asked to get a general views of the passage. Here are some. These are some examples of the top-down processing activities. These are examples of the top-down activities. Now the next, bottom-up processing. Bottom-up processing. Так, what do some underlined words refer to? Or who, what does a pronoun refer to? What do some underlined words refer to? Or who, what does a pronoun refer to? Identifies the order of a set of the words in the discourse. Recognize linking words or sequence speech markers. Identifies the order of a set of the words in the discourse. Recognize linking words or sequence speech markers. Recognize the parts of the speech of a set of the words. Recognize the part of the speech of a set of the words. Identify the tense of the verbs. Identify the tense of verbs. Identify synonyms and antonyms of a set of the words in the text. Now, bottom-up activities are concerned with the things such as individual words. For example, phrases and sentences. These activities guide the students to contrast a better text meaning. Now, for example, these activities help the learners to return information while it is being processed. Identify a word in the clause boundaries. Recognize key transitions, locate references, understand grammatical relationships between syntactic elements in a utterance and a sentence, and identify sentence functions. These are for the examples. Examples of such activities include here. Now the next receptive skills procedure. The comprehension tasks involved in the receptive skills should normally follow a sequence of the activities from getting a general view of the text. Now, for example, top-down procedure to studying the more specific and the small elements that constitute these texts. The receptive skills lesson plan starts with preparing the students through warm-up and the lead-in activities. After that, the teacher focuses on the strategies. Now, for example, predicting, inferring meanings from the context, locating references needed to understand the spoken or the written text. This is followed by comprehension tasks that aim at first general, then detailed comprehension of the content of the text. The lesson ends with a follow-up activity that summarizes the text, connects it to the learner's daily life experiences, or pushes them to react to it. Now, figures 3 shows the procedure adapted to sequence the reading and the listening activities. Now, look here. First of all, a warm-up and a lead-in we start. After that, to set the scene for a main task. After the main task, focus on a reading or listening strategy. After the strategy, explanation and demonstration of reading or listening, a sample of the strategies such as predicting, inferring meaning from the text, skimming, scanning, or application practices. Explanation and demonstration of reading and the listening, a sample of the strategies such as predicting, inferring meanings from the context, skimming, scanning, application, or practice. Now the next, comprehension. Comprehension tasks that start from general to detailed comprehension. Comprehension tasks that start from the general to detailed comprehension. Now the next, text work. Work on the linguistic aspect of the text. Now, for example, vocabulary, grammar, etc. Now the next task, related follow-up. At the end of the summarizing, connecting, reacting in spoken or written forms. After the following up, summarizing, connecting, reacting in spoken or written forms. Now let's review. Now, skills of learning. They are receptive skills, input. They are reading and the listening. The next, productive skills, output. They are speaking and the writing. No. Teaching receptive skills. There are three important things should be taken into account when teaching receptive skills. The first, develop the necessary skills to understand and interpret spoken or written materials. The second, read or listen for a purpose. Now the third, listeners and readers make use of the important cognitive processing while listening or reading. Top-down processing. Bottom-up processing. Bottom-up. Now the next, receptive skills procedure. Now have a break. After break we continue our receptive skills. Okay? Have a break 5 minutes. I'll give you 5 minutes. Now let's continue our session. Are you here? May I continue? Now, the procedure commonly adopted to teach receptive skills can be summarized in the table below. The steps in this sequence are referred to as pre-while and post stages. Now this is stages and the procedures. Now warm up. Any activity that will put the students in the mood of the learning. Now, for example, a riddle, chanting, tongue twister, now etc. It shouldn't take a lot of time, 5 minutes maximum. Now the next, preparing the students to the topic through the activation of the systematic knowledge about the topic, for example, using related pictures or graphs, discussion or related quotes. Now the next, leading, vocabulary pre-teaching. Now, for example, pre-teaching a limited set of key vocabulary. Grammar pre-teaching, for example, the plural forms, time expressions, form of the certain verbs. Form of the certain verbs. Now etc. Now strategy teaching. Explicitly teaching the learners about how to use a reading or listening strategy. Now, for example, using prior knowledge, scheming, scanning, locating, reference. I'll repeat once more. Explicitly teaching the learners about how to use a reading or listening strategy. For example, using prior knowledge, scheming, scanning, locating, reference. And now the next, strategy practice. The learners apply the strategy. They do the task first individually, then they compare answers in pairs or groups. Now comprehension tasks. True, false exercise. Matching. 5 questions. Sentence complication. Now comprehension tasks. True or false exercise. Matching. 5 questions. Sentence complication. Now the next, locating reference. Matching words with their definitions. Finding in the text synonyms or antonyms of given words. Inferring the meaning of words from the text. Identifying verb tenses. Identifying linking words through the text work. It is a while stage. Locating reference. Matching words with definitions. Finding in the text synonyms or antonyms of the given words. Inferring the meaning of words from the text. Identifying verb tenses. Identifying linking words. Now the next. Both stages. Reviewing. Recalling information from the text. Retelling the story. Summarizing the text. Completing a chart with the main ideas discussed in the text. Reviewing. Recalling information from the text. Retelling the story. Summarizing the text. Completing a chart with the main ideas discussed in the text. Now connecting. Connecting the text with the other texts. Connecting the text with the learner's lives. Connecting the text with the world. Connecting the text with the texts. Connecting the texts with the learner's lives. Connecting the text with the world. Now follow up using the text. Using the text as a springboard for teaching other components such as writing, speaking, or grammar. Using the text as a springboard for teaching other components such as writing, speaking, or grammar. Now strategies. They are predicting, skimming, and scanning. Predicting, skimming, and scanning. Now what are they? Predicting. Now it is comprehension. Strategies. As readers or listeners, we never start reading or listening completely from a zero starting point. We always use our prior knowledge to predict what the text will be about or to make sense of what is said or written. In addition to that, we always look for contextual clues to help us in our quest for making sense of the text. We also often recall and connect the information in the text to other texts, to ourselves, and the world. Now, let's stop predicting. Now, what is it? Predicting is using information or elements from a passage. Now, for example, title, headings, pictures, diagrams, words in huge type, and a personal knowledge to anticipate what the text is about. Now I'll read once more. Predicting is a using information or elements from a passage. For example, title, headings, pictures, diagrams, words in huge type, and a personal knowledge to anticipate what the text is about. Now the next strategy is skimming. Now what is it? Skimming. Reading a text quickly to get its general idea. Reading a text quickly to get its general idea. What about it? To get the gist of the content. Now the next strategy is scanning. Now what is it? Scanning. Reading a text quickly to locate a specific fact or piece of information. This may be a date, a name or figure. This strategy is also referred to as reading for specific details. In this passage, the main phrases reading for specific details. Reading a text quickly to locate a specific fact or piece of information. This may be a date, a name, or figure. This strategy is also referred to as a reading for specific details. Specific details. Now the next strategy is previewing. Previewing or surveying consists of having an idea about the content and the goals of a reading text before starting to read. To do so, readers look at the title, subtitles, a picture, or read the first sentence of each paragraph. Previewing or surveying consists of having an idea about the content and the goals of reading text before starting to read. To do so, readers look at the title, subtitles, a picture, or read the first sentence of each paragraph. Now the next strategy is questioning. Generating questions about the text and the writer's intentions. This helps learners get engaged actively with the text instead of reading it passively. Generating questions about the text and the writer's intentions. This helps learners get engaged actively with the text instead of reading it passively. Now the next, making connections. Readers relate the content of the passage to self, to other texts, or to the world. Making connections enhance deeper insight and understanding. Readers relate the content of the passage to self, to other texts, or to the world. Making connections enhance deeper insight and understanding. Now the next strategy is inferring. Making meaning of the text by reading between the lines and using personal knowledge. The aim is to contrast meaning beyond what is literally expressed. By inferring, readers are adding information that is not explicitly stated. Making meaning of the text by reading between the lines and using personal knowledge. The aim is to contrast meaning beyond what is literally expressed. By inferring, readers are adding information that is not explicitly stated. Now the next strategy is summarizing. Now what is it, summarizing? Summarizing consists of giving a brief statement of a text using one's own words by identifying the most important points. This strategy helps learners integrate the main ideas in a meaningful way. Summarizing consists of giving a brief statement of a text using one's own words by identifying the most important points. This strategy helps learners integrate the main ideas in a meaningful way. Now the next, using background knowledge. Using what is already known to better understand something new. By activating prior knowledge, readers try to make sense out of what they read by seeing how it fits with what they already know. Using what is already known to better understand something new. By activating prior knowledge, readers try to make sense out of what they read by seeing how it fits with what they already know. Now the next strategy is locating reference. Identifying the antecedents of some words in a text. Identifying the antecedents of some words in a text. The next, recalling. Relying on memory to retrieve a specific piece of the information or general idea from a text, retelling the content of a text without going back to it. Relying on memory to retrieve a specific piece of the information or a general idea from a text, retelling the content of a text without going back to it. Now the next strategy is evaluating. Critically reflecting on and judging the author's purpose, attitude, opinion. Critically reflecting on and judging the author's purpose, attitude, opinion, etc. Now, teaching receptive skills. Comprehension questions. Now, the comprehension question aims to get both an overall and a detailed understanding of the text. The comprehension question aims to get both an overall and a detailed understanding of the text. These may be in the form of true or false questions, 5 questions, questions that start with what, when, why, who, sentence completion, matching, true or false questions, 5 questions, questions that start with what, when, why, who, sentence completion, matching. Matching. And now, general to specific tasks. Teaching receptive skills follows a sequence that starts from the general to more specific understanding. The following table provides examples of tasks that can be assigned in each stage in this sequence. Now, the next, learning objectives. Fifth is grade, reading skills 1. Understand the main points in a limited range of the short, simple texts on a general and curricular topics. It is learning objectives from what? From long-term plan or subject. The second, fifth is grade, reading 2. Understand with little support specific information and detail in a short, simple text on a limited range of the general and curricular topics. The next, fifth is grade, reading 3. Understand the detail of the argument on a limited range of the familiar general and curricular topics. Fifth is grade, reading 4. Read with some support a limited range of the short fiction and the non-fiction texts. Fifth is grade, reading 5. Deduce meaning from context in short texts on a limited range of the familiar, general, and curricular topics. Fifth is grade, reading 6. Recognize the attitude or opinion of the writer in short texts on a limited range of the general and curricular topics. Fifth is grade, reading 7. Recognize typical features at word, sentence, and text level in a limited range of written genres. Fifth is grade, reading 8. Use with some support familiar paper and the digital reference resources to check meaning and extend understanding. Fifth is grade, reading 9. Recognize the difference between fact and opinion in a short, simple texts on an increasing range of the general and the curricular topics. Now, teaching receptive skills. Teaching receptive skills. Starts from general to more specific understanding. Overall understanding. How many people are speaking? What are they talking about? Where are the speakers? Choose an appropriate title. Match the headings with the different sections. More detailed understanding. Why are they in the hospital? What happened to Jane? What are the doctor's prognostic? Now language focus. What are the words that describe Jane's health problem? Underline the words, expressions that describe her parents' feelings. What tenses are used? Now productive skills there. Writing and speaking. Writing and speaking. Writing and speaking. Now writing skills. Intuitional and personal. Intuitional and personal. Intuitional and personal. Intuitional and personal. To be successful in acquiring the speaking skill in the target language, the following sub-skills should be developed. Now, the ability to articulate phonological features of the language comprehensively. Expertise on stress, rhythm, intonation patterns. An acceptance degree of fluency. Transactional and interpersonal skills. Skills in talking short and long speaking turns. Skills in the management of interaction. Using appropriate formulae and fillers. Now the next. Teaching productive skills. Form-focused speaking, meaning-focused speaking. Form-focused speaking, meaning-focused speaking. Form-focused speaking. Now what is it? Form-focused speaking goes deeply into details of pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary. This stage is suitable for beginners. An effective way how to start teaching foreign languages is to base speaking on some simple, useful phrases and sentences. Now, for example, greetings, simple questions and answers or personal descriptions which are easy to remember. This can be practiced by repetition drills. By repetition drills, the teacher can change speed. The learner who is to repeat the content of the sentence and the way of the choosing the substitution. Now I agree with their opinion that drills play a useful part of the language course in helping learners to be formally accurate in their speech and in helping them to quickly learn a useful collection of phrases and sentences that allow them to start using the language as soon as possible. Now, meaning-focused speakers. Speaking is that stage of speaking where attention lays on the message being communicated. The activity develops learners' ability to speak. For this, Brown and the Nation suggest several ways. The teacher presents new vocabulary or grammar. It is based on form-focused instruction, and then the students are given some practice. Frequently, before the students start to speak, they work in groups or pairs to prepare the activity. The activity gives learners the opportunity to learn from each other. The students are given topics to talk about. They may prepare it for homework use dictionaries or reference text, and then they present what they have prepared. Often the activities are supported by pictures or written texts. They appear in a ranking activity or a problem-solving activity, where the text contains important data about the situations and so on. Many speaking activities force students to ask each other. Broughton and his colleagues divide speaking activities into 3 groups. They divide speaking activities into controlled oral work, guided oral work, free oral work. Broughton and his colleagues divide speaking activities into 3 groups: controlled oral work, guided oral work, free oral work. Free oral work. Controlled oral work. Now let's stop controlled oral work. Now what is it? Among controlled oral work, the authors include the dialogue. The advantages of dialogue is that it can be used for controlled, guided or free work. It is also possible to use the dialogue for each level, starting with elementary level. The students prepare mini dialogue in pairs even in the first lesson. Controlled oral work can be supported by drills, especially substitution drills, which are widely used. The advantage of drills is that the error is 14 almost eliminated, and the students feel more comfortable to speak, which is a very important point, mainly at lower levels. Now he says that substitutional drills demonstrate much more clearly to the class that this is not simply mechanical drill, but language practice with a visually demonstrated communicative function in a real-life situation in which the student can find himself. Now the next, guided oral work. The aim of the guided oral work is to give students a limited freedom and to practice what they have learned. In this phrase, making mistakes in learning is taken as a natural part. Among guided oral work, the authors include role plays. Here the students can learn some practical phrases used in everyday life. Now, for example, shopping in the supermarket. However, not only a role play, but also setting up a role play situation is another way how to practice speaking skills in the guided way. Now the next speaking activity, it is free oral work. Now what is it? It is the last phase in which the student should be able to produce such an amount the language that they will be able to express themselves. This phase is typical for advanced students. The aim of the teacher in this phase is to create such situational and stimulate that all students will be actively involved in a communicative way. By the stimuli, the authors mean visual stimuli, pictures, maps, cartoons, films, or photographs that are motivating for discussions starters. Another stimulus is written words, for example, magazines, newspapers, leaflets, book according to the level, and etc. Also, games and puzzles play an important role in teaching speaking skills. Further, the author suggests group work as a good tool of free or oral production activities. Most of the techniques are prepared in groups at the beginning and then they are brought back to the class. Of course, there is automatically less teacher control or more public pupil-centeredness. Now, there are three basic reasons why teachers should provide students with activities. There are three basic reasons why teachers should provide students with activities. Rehearsal, feedback, engagement. Now I'll give you some wait time for a break, 10 minutes. Have a rest. And now continue our session. Types of speaking activities. Types of speaking activities. The first, picture stories. Picture stories can be used with all students, particularly those with limited literacy skills. Learners can interpret a story based on a picture sequences. Students work collaboratively to put the story in the correct order. Once they have done so, they stand in a circle and tell the story. Now the next, information gap activities. Informational gap activities are often used to practice specific language points, and they are also ideal for general fluency practices. The teacher giving assignment to gap information in the picture gives clue or keyword. Now the next, groupings. Groupings. Finding connections among other students is a concept of groupings. In creating groups, teacher and the learners need to negotiate what they will discuss. Speaking activities, I'll continue. The next, mingle activities. The mingle activity involves learners mingling around the gathering information from other students in the class on a given topic. Mingle activities have the benefit of maximizing student participation for learners at all levels. The next, discussion activities. Any learners can take part in discussion activities. It can be about current events, cultural essay, education, work, or anything that is relevant to learner lives. Now the next speaking activities, it is problem solving. Problem solving activities have all of the characteristics given for discussion activities. Learners work together to come up with solution to the problem. Now the next speaking activities is drama and the role play. Drama and the role play. Using drama in the classroom setting provides a useful and enjoyable medium to discover language. Students can express themselves in a variety of ways and may be transported into a world of imagination. Students are able to shed their inhibitions, taking on the role of an entirely different character and shaking the shackles of culture and the social expectations. Now the last speaking activities is surveys and questionnaires. Students prepare questions on topics such as cinema, sleep, free time activities, likes and dislikes, and conduct a survey by interview each other and compiling information. Now, learning objectives of these speaking activities. Fifth grade speaking 1. Provide basic information about themselves and others at sentence level on an increasing range of the general topic. Fifth grade speaking 2. Ask simple questions to get information about a limited range of general topics. Fifth grade speaking 3. Give an opinion at sentence level of limited range of the general and the cultural topics. Fifth grade speaking 4. Respond with limited flexibility at sentence level to unexpected comments on an increasing range of general and curricular topics. Now the next, fifth grade speaking 5. Keep interaction going in basic exchange on a growing range of general and curricular topics. Fifth grade speaking 6. Communicate meaning clearly at sentence level during pair, group and the whole class exchange. Fifth grade speaking 7. Use appropriate subject-specific vocabulary and the syntax to talk about a limited range of the general topic. Fifth grade speaking 8. Recount basic stories and events on a range of the general and the curricular topics. Now writing skills. Now characteristics that differentiate a written language from spoken language as stated by Brown. Performance. Oral language is transitory and must be perceived in real time, while written language is permanent and can be read and reread often as one likes. Now the next, production time. Writes generally have more time to plan, review and revise their words before they are finalized. While speaking, speakers must plan, formulate and deliver their utterances within a few moments if the other maintain a conversation. The next, style. Distance between the writer and the reader in both time and space, which elementaries much of the shared context that is present between speaker and listener in ordinary face-to-face contrast, thus necessarily greater explanations on the part of the writer. Now the next, orthography. 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 It carries limited amount of information compared to the richness and or devices available to speakers to enhance a message. For example, stress, intonation, pitch, volume, pausing, etc. Now the next, complicity. Complicity. Writing tends to have characteristics of longer clauses and more subordinates, while spoken language tends to have shorter clauses connected by coordinates as well as more redundancy, for example, a repetition of nouns and verbs. Now the next, formality. Because of the social and the cultural uses to which writing is ordinarily put, writing tends to be more formal than speakers. Now the next, vocabulary. Written texts tend to contain a wide variety of words and a more lower frequency words than oral texts. Before looking at how to teach writing skills, aspects of effective writing can be considered. Correctness and accuracy are needed into the following areas. Now, correctness and accuracy are needed in the following areas. Grammar. Grammar is important for writing. However, when we speak, we are more likely to use simple grammar, and it's easier to get away with the incorrect sentences. In writing, every grammar error stands out, which is why it is especially important to know the rules. Vocabulary. Being able to choose the most accurate words to express your thoughts in writing is the key to being understood. Now the next, spelling. There are few spelling rules in English, and the connection between how a word is spelled and how it is pronounced is less clear-cut than in many other languages. Our students need to learn the spelling of each word. Now the next, punctuation. This helps us understand written text the way intonation helps us understand another person's speech. Layout. Layout. Students must be made aware of the conventions of certain forms of writing. For example, informal letters, formal letters, poems, scientific reports, diaries, notes, and postcards. So next, linking. Learners must consider linking ideas and information across sentences and paragraphs to develop a topic or argument. Now the last, style. Appropriate styles should be taught to the students. For example, our written English on a postcard to a friend is completely different from a letter to government office asking for information. Now stages of writing. Controlled writing, guided writing, and free writing. Controlled writing. It is sensible to distinguish between writing exercises in which the final product is linguistically determined by the teacher and exercise in which the final content is determined. Thus, by controlled writing, T understands, for example, exercises in which a paragraph with blank is to be filled, in which picture prompts or memory of a model presented by the teacher leads to reproductive more or less exactly the same final product as each other. Now the next, guided writing. Guided writing, a composition in which the teacher provides the situation and helps the class to prepare the written work in guided writing. Now the next, free writing. By free writing we understand a writing in which the title is provided and everything is done by the students. Now, writing activities. Letters. Students can write to make complaints, thank, ask for, and give information or advice, prepare job applications. The next, creative writing. You can use pictures or begin a story and ask students to finish it. Or you can use a personal situation where the student was happy, sad, surprised, snorked, etc. Now the next writing activity is diary. Ask your student to keep a diary. The next writing activity is discursive essays. Students need to present an argument, state points for and against in a logical way, and write a conclusive paragraph. This is often required by exam boards. Instructions. It might be a recipe, directions, changing a wheel, cooking a meal, making a cup of tea, repairing something, or applying for a visa. Now the last, dictation. A dictation can be a calming effect on a young learners. It is also useful for teachers who have limited resources and the need to dictate a text for a reading skills lesson. Alternatively, students can be asked to dictate to each other and to focus also on pronunciation and the listening skills. Dictations are good for spelling, as there is no direct link in English between the way words are written and the way they sound. Writing activities. Beginners, elementary. Descriptions: whom, family members and friends, your job and the place, etc. Short biography of self, family member of the famous person, mails to a friends, etc. Intermediate. Ideas from the previous list can be used as well. Problem pages, magazine interviews, advertisements, quizzes and puzzles, film in the book, reviews. Advanced. Letters to the editor, essays, articles arguing and defining a point of the view, research papers. Now, process of writing. Process of writing. First of all, planning. Planning. Or pre-writing is the activity of writing that aimed to encourage and stimulate the students to write. Since its function is to stimulate students' ideas to write, the writing activities must be prepared to provide them learning experiences of writing, such as brainstorming and etc. The next, drafting, revisiting and editing. Now we continue our process of writing tomorrow, I think, because we have now Now let's continue. Drafting and revisiting and editing. The next, integration of receptive and productive skills. Balanced activities approach: language input, structured output, communicative output. Now the next, interaction of receptive and productive skills. Language input, content-oriented, form-oriented. Learning objectives. Fifth grade, writing 1. Plan, write, edit, and proofread work at text level with support on a limited range of the general and the curricular topics. Fifth grade, writing 2. Write with support a sequence of short sentences in a paragraph on a limited range of the familiar general topics. Fifth grade, writing 3. Write with support factual descriptions at text level which describe people, places, and objects. Fifth grade, writing 4. Write with support a sequence of extended sentences in a paragraph to give basic personal information. Fifth grade, writing 5. Link without support sentences using basic coordinating connectors. Fifth grade, writing 6. Link with some support sentences into coherent paragraphs using basic connectors on a limited range of the familiar general topics. Fifth grade, writing 7. Use with some support appropriately at text level for a limited range of the written genres on familiar general topics and some curricular topics. Writing 8. Spell most high frequency words accurately for a limited range of the general topics. Writing 9. Punctuate a written work at text level on a limited range of the familiar general with some accuracy. No? let's continue our theory of multiple intelligence by Gardner. Now gives the main, please, commentary, because ask through us, from you. Так, комментарий жазуға тырысыңдаршы, маңызды комментариялар, пожалуйста. The main commentary. Потому что сұрап жатыр да. Қазір қайталаймыз. Содан кейін барып, өзіңіздің пікірлеріңізді жазарсыңдар. Бүгін не оқыдыңдар, не үйрендіңдер. The theory of multiple intelligence by Gardner. Қазір қайталаймыз. Let's continue. Now, the aim it is, you know, through this today's session or slide, 9 multiple intelligences: verbal, linguistic intelligence, mathematical, logical, musical, visual, bodily, kinesthetic, interpersonal. Now please, how many multiple intelligence have you known? Have you learned? And name it, please, on your commentary. Okay? Now, there are specific modes of multimedia and instruction techniques which include the following: visuals, printed words, sound, motion, color. Really, instructional setting, learner characteristics. A reading ability categorizes of the learning outcomes. Events of instruction, performance. And facilitate effective learning. Words, numbers or logic, pictures, music, self-reflection, physical experience, a social experience, and an experience in the natural world. Now let's review. Now the next. Now let's principle of the receptive and productive language we have learned today. Okay? Now, skills of learning: receptive, reading and the listening; productive skills, speaking and the writing. And the teaching receptive skills, they are 3. Now the next: top-down processing, bottom-up processing, receptive skills procedure. Steps of the receptive skills, you know how to step. And the strategies: predicting, scheming, scanning, previewing, questioning, making connections, inferring, summarizing, using background knowledge. And the teaching receptive skills: comprehension questions. Now it is for the reading learning objectives. Teaching receptive skills, it is writing skills. Teaching productive skills: form focused speaking and the meaning focused speaking. And divided into these activities: controlled oral work, guided oral work, and the free oral work. Speaking activities, picture stories, information gap activities, and groupings. So next, mingle activities, discussion activities, and problem solving. So next, drama and role play, surveys, and the questionnaires. Writing. It is writing. Stages of writing: controlled writing, guided writing, and the free writing. Process of writing: planning, drafting, visiting, and editing. Now, thank you. Let's now let's give the feedback, please. Gulnara Dusingaleva writes, the lecture on goal setting has been successful effectively and efficiently. In teaching practices, we pay a little attention to theory. Therefore, they are desired themes. Rayhan Asılbekovna writes, visual, kinesthetic words, numbers, music, and mathematical. Gulsizim Saginova writes, there are 9 types of the intelligence. Мына жерде Индира Бадакова жазыпты ғой, әріптестер. Мазмұнды пікір қалдыруларыңыз сұралады деп. Give the main. I'll give you some wait time. Please give the main commentaries for today's session. I'm waiting for you. Okay? I'll give you some wait time. Now, dear colleagues, I'm waiting for you, your opinion for today's session. Do you get a lot of information about today's session. Today we have learned some language skills, strategies, and activities. Rayhan Asılbekovna writes. We have learned some language skills, strategies, and activities. They were very useful for us. Thank you so much. Now another commentaries. I'm waiting. Айдана Каримова пишет: сегодня получили нужную информацию, спасибо. Дарига Куанова: today we have got more information about multiple intelligence. Now where are you? I'm waiting. Positive commentaries. Do you like today's session? Is it useful for you in your future practice? No, it is theory information, but are you here? No, I have a problem with my hair. I don't catch your voices. Your writing voices. Rayhan Asılbekovna, this lecture was a little bit harder, but it's important and necessary. Жаза беріңдер, қазақша да жаза беріңдер. Назгүл Қисметова: today we give us more information, for example, teaching productive skills speaking activities, writing skills. Good season. Second, I should say we've enlarged our knowledge on the following, such as intelligence and types of the writing speaking skills. Дариға Қуанова, today's session is more useful for our future practice. Thank you very much. I think you get a lot of information about teaching productive skills, all the speaking, writing skills, multiple intelligences. They are important and necessary, I think. Gulnar Dusingaliyev. Theoretical essays we are need to know nowadays. Yes, you are right. Aynagül Arslan. Today we've received methodologically useful and valuable information. Thanks a lot. At last, Aynagül writes. Now, thank you, my friends. I have finished my today's session. Now, see you soon. Now, thank you for your attention. You were active today. Now, see you soon.